Okay, let's go back to this now. All right, we have, let's look at our diagram here at the top. It tells us in number 16, find the volume of the right solid whose base is the figure shown on the left and whose sides are 2 meters high. The upper and lower sides of the base are parallel, meaning it doesn't get more narrow at the top, and dimensions are in meters. So the first thing we have to say is, how are we going to find the volume? Well, how do you find volume of anything? You say volume equals the total area times height. In this case, since we're going to do total area of this case, we have volume equals total area times height. Let's look at what we're going to use. What are the shapes? Well, we have a triangle, a rectangle, and a triangle. Notice about the triangles. This has the base of 1 and a height of 2. This has the base of 1 and the height of 2. Now, I know they don't look like that. That's because I drew them, okay? They don't look even because they're not, but that's my drawing, all right? But our numbers tell us that they're even. So our triangles are exactly the same. So we can find the area of 1, multiply it by 2 because there are 2 of them, and continue on. It just takes a step out, okay? So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to find the area. Let's put the area of the rectangle first. Remember, you're doing this on your paper while I do it on the board. The area of the rectangle times base times height divided by 2. It's not times, it's plus, sorry. And multiplied by the height. Now, how do you find the area of a rectangle? Area of a rectangle is length times width. Plus the triangle, we're going to say 2 times the base of 1. Our height is 2 and divide it by 2. We're going to multiply all that out, then multiply by 2. Then we're going to multiply by our height, which is also 2. All right? Now, it did tell us that this was in meters, and these dimensions are in meters, okay? So we have our length times width. Let's go ahead and put it in here. It is 6 times 2. So our volume is 6 times 2 is 12, plus, over here, do inside the parentheses first. 1 times 2 is 2. Divided by 2 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay? And then we have, multiply that by 2 meters. So now we have 12 plus 2 is 14 meters. Times 2 meters gives us 28 square meters. I want you to skip down in your work to number 18, just because it's on our board. So it gives us a little more room to work, okay? So we have 9x plus 11 equals 92. What's the first thing we have to do? We need to get all of the constants on one side. In other words, all of the numbers, right? The numbers that are alone. It says to add 11, and we know that in algebra we do the opposite of what it says, but whatever we do on the left, we have to do on the right. So we're going to subtract 11 from both sides. This is going to cancel, leaving us 9x equals, now we're going to subtract over here, it leaves us 81. What do we do now? It says 9 times x, it says to multiply, so we know that we're going to divide. We're going to divide by the constant or divide by the 9. And whatever we do on the left, we have to do on the right. So we're going to divide again, leaving us x equals 9. Hopefully you found that to be a very simple problem. On the next one, I started working it out. So let's back up and show us what we did. We said, oh, I need an equation. So I'm going to cross multiply 4 and 1/5 times x, give me 4 and 1/5 x. Then I'm going to say 3.5 times 1 and 1/8. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to change these numbers to improper fractions. 4 times 5 plus 1 is 21 over 5x. Now I'm going to go over here and say, let me change this to an improper fraction. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. I have 7 over 2. Now I have 1 times 8 is 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 over 8. Now, I want to solve this equation. What am I going to do? Well, it says 21/5 times x. So normally I know that I'm going to do the opposite of that. The opposite of 21/5 times x is to divide by 21/5, right? So when I divide by a fraction, I use the reciprocal and I multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 5 over 21. Whatever I do on the left, I must do on the right. okay? This is all gonna cancel, leaving me x. Now go to the other side. The reason I didn't solve my 7/2 times 9/8 is because I knew I was bringing another fraction over. And you can multiply all three fractions at the same time. What can I cancel? Well, looking at it, I can't cancel a whole lot of anything, can I? None of these are even numbers, so I can't cancel by 2. None of these are multiples of 8, so I can't cancel by 8. I can't cancel. So now I'm just going to multiply, okay? So 2 times 8, or let's go 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 8 is 32. Okay? Now, 7 times 9 is 63, and 63 times 5. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. Put your 5 down, carry your 1, and put it over here. So some of you are struggling with that, so I'll write over here. So you have 15. You carried your 1, so it's 31. Okay? So we have 315 over 32 is how we solve our problem. We have one more we're going to look at together, and that is number 17. Find the volume in cubic yards of the right cylinder whose diameter measures 3 yards, okay? So we have a diameter of 3 yards. Now, my question is, if the diameter is 3 yards, what's the radius? 1 1/2, because it's just half of the diameter. Let's look at our problem. It tells us to find the volume. How do you find the volume? How do you find the volume of a cylinder? Okay? You're going to say, excuse me. I'm so sorry. We're going to take the area of our base and multiply it by our height, right? The same thing that we do in a right solid. It's the total area times height. Well, that's really what the base is. The base is the area of the bottom, or the area of the shape. We just call it the area of a base because it's a cylinder, it's a circle. And now we're going to solve that. Well, how do I find the area of our base? Well, area of it is going to be pi times radius squared. So let's put that here. Pi times radius squared. That's going to give us our area, and then we're going to multiply by the height. Does it matter what order those three things are? No, because all of them are multiplying. I can say 2 times 4 times 3, 3 times 4 times 2, 4 times 2 times 3. It doesn't matter. I'm going to get the same answer. Okay? So in this case, we know that pi, I'm just going to bring it down for just a minute. Let's look at our radius squared. Our diameter is 3, so our radius is 1 1/2. So we're going to say 1 1/2 squared times our height. And the height, let me look back at our problem for just a minute, is 3, okay? So this is yards, and we're going to multiply that by 3 yards, okay? So what are we going to say now? Well, let's multiply our square and multiply that by 3 before we even do it with the pi. Why? Because pi is going to be our decimal. We don't want to deal with it until the very end. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say 1.5. Let's make that into a, let's do that. Let's make this into a decimal. It might be a little easier. 1 point, because of pi, we're going to do as a decimal, okay? So we're going to have 1.5 squared, and that's going to be 2 and 2.25. 2.25 is what it is when I multiply it, okay? Times 5 times 3, okay? So now I want to say 2.25 times 3 times, which if I want to write it all out, I can do that. We're going to get 15, 7, and 6 times pi, which is going to be 3.14, okay? So when I multiply 6.75 times 3.14, when I multiply it out, and first of all, remember, you have to count your decimals over, right? So your final answer is going to be 21.195. 21.195. We said this was in yards. It's volume, so it's cubic yards, because this is This is going to become square yards because it's the area. This is going to be just a yard. So when we have that, we can end up our answers cubic yards, okay? Now, I want you to be very careful as you work the problems. Make sure you use your paper from today's video to help you on your homework and on your quiz. I miss you guys. Hope you have a great day.